Okay, good morning everyone. Today is Chaf Beis Shvat, and we're about to begin the 7th chapter, 7th paragraph of the Maimer about Purim that the Rebbe said on Tafshin Yud Gimel 1953. The Chaf Beis Shvat is the day that the Lubavitcher Rebbe actually went into the final and total stage of being a Rebbe. When the previous Rebbe passed away, the date was Yud Shvat in 1950, Tafshin Yud. A year after that, on Yud Aleph Shvat, 1951, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe was chosen to be the leader of the Chabad movement. And the Chabad movement took on itself to bring Mashiach and save the whole world at all costs. And then, in Tafshin Mem Chet, which is 1988, the Rebbe's wife passed away. And so then the Rebbe became, a Rebbe totally on his own. What does that mean, totally on his own? The way that the Rebbe became Rebbe is he married the previous Rebbe's daughter. So all the time the previous Rebbe's daughter was alive, or the previous Rebbe was alive, so the previous Rebbe was connected and totally surrendered to the previous Rebbe, more than any of the even the other Rebbes were to the Rebbe before that. The Rebbe was more devoted to the present Rebbe was more devoted to the previous Rebbe more than any of the Rebbes had been devoted to their predecessors, even though their predecessors were their fathers or their grandfathers. But when the previous Rebbe passed away, so a year later the Rebbe became Rebbe. And he took on the job of bringing Mashiach, or as the Rebbe himself said, that he is the Mashiach. He is the Mashiach of the generation. As the Rebbe said, that the leader, the Chabad leader of every generation, is the Mashiach of that generation. But when the Rebbe's wife passed away, so that was, so to speak, ending the dual rulership. In other words, it was the Rebbe and the previous Rebbe. Well, because the Rebbe was connected to the previous Rebbe through his daughter. But as soon as this daughter passed away, so the Rebbe was, at least in a visible way, on his own. So there was a third stage of the Rebbe revealing in this world, the final stage of to reveal the Mashiach, the Messiah in this world. Which bringing Messiah is the essence of Judaism, and it's the thing that every Jew waits for. And it's going to finish the work that Abraham started and that Moses started, Moses continued, of taking the Jews out of their personal hang-ups and difficulties and bringing everyone to who they really are. That's the job of Mashiach and the Rebbe. So that's Chaf Beis Shvat. Oh. Okay, so we're on paragraph Zion. Is this a regular thing, fellas? 20 minutes late every day? 20 minutes late? Seriously, it's wonderful you come. I'm really happy. But 20 minutes, you have to... Zion. Okay, so what did we say? Let's not lose the track of what we're saying over it. Does everybody have the right page? You have the right page? Yeah. Okay. What was Haman's idea to throw the lots? Says the Rebbe, the lots were a very, very high spiritual connection. What are lots? Lots are something that are above wisdom and above understanding. It's above Torah and above the commandments. It's above even God's connection to the Jewish people. According to God's connection to the Jewish people, because every Jew is filled with commandments, even the most evil Jews are filled with commandments, potentially, it says like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. So every Jew in Hashem's mind or in Hashem's will is part of the chosen people. Part of the chosen people. But there's a level that's above that. There's a level above that where God doesn't care. And from that level, Jews get forgiven. But it also could be, even if a Jew doesn't act like a Jew, doesn't think like a Jew, doesn't talk like a Jew, he goes against God, purposely goes against God, but still he can get forgiven from this level. Because it's above nature. That's why Yom Kippurim, they throw lots. And why Purim is the holiday of lots. Because it shows that they got above this level. But Haman knew that from this level also was above God's connection to the Jews in a normal way. This fact that the Jews have potential to do commandments, this is all sort of logical. And Haman wanted to get above that. And that's why he threw lots. Because he knew that always at the last minute things turn around for the Jews. And he wanted to get to some level, to have some indication where he would be above any sort of turnarounds. Right? He would be above any sort of logic, where it would be 50-50 chance for him to win against the Jews. 50-50 would be at least half chance. Up to now, nobody had any chance to win against the Jews. But even in Paro didn't destroy them, and Lavan didn't destroy them, and Esav didn't destroy them. Amalek didn't destroy them. But he figured he would get to a level where at least he had a 50% chance of destroying the Jews. It would be above, a level that was above all, favoritism. God had no reason from that level to favor the Jews. So he threw lots. Says the Rebbe, and if you want to understand a little bit about how high these lots are, exactly where Haman, how genius a person, evil genius Haman was, how spiritual he was. Says, let's understand first of all, what is Achashverosh? Achashverosh, it says, represents God. Why? Because the Acharis and the Reshis are his. Beginning and the end belong to him. In other words, to God, the highest and the lowest are the same. That's the level that's represented by the word Achashverosh. A level of God where the highest and the lowest are the same. Right? Highest and the lowest are the same. Says the Rebbe, it's also Achashverosh also is Chash means to be quiet and Rosh means to be poor. From this level of Achashverosh, it can make the Jews quiet and it can make the Jews poor. Or even more, how the Rebbe says it can make God quiet, it can make God poor. How can God be quiet and poor? God, when God speaks, that's a revelation of God. It can make God quiet so there's no revelation of God. Where do we see no revelation of God? In the world, nature. Nature. If you look at nature, you don't see God. It used to be, I don't know if it's still that way, that the biggest atheists were the scientists. Right? The biggest proof that God doesn't exist was science. Right? They would bring when Isaac Newton and all these people, even though Isaac Newton was a person that really believed in God very deeply. But when Isaac Newton came up with his ideas, and there was tremendously genius ideas about motion and propulsion and gravity and things like that, the whole world said, see, we can explain everything. Everything is nature. It's not God and there's no miracles. Right? You thought nature was a miracle. Then came Darwin and he said, I got a theory, maybe man just came from a monkey, maybe this. He said, yeah, look, here we see everything is just natural processes. So nature covers over God. On the other hand, there were people that say, hey, tell me, who invented these natural processes? Where did they come from? Who invented these laws of nature? Where did they come from? Right? So, wow, the whole world is just big miracles. The whole thing is miracles. So nature can cover over God, and it can reveal God. But there is another aspect of nature that can not only cover up God, but it can make you go against God. That's called Rosh, being poor. Nature can make a person, if people follow their natures, it can make a person go totally against God. Huh? Rosh. A Rosh is called poor. It's a term that's used in the biblical term. But usually you don't, it's not used so much in like newspapers and things like that. But it's a word, Rosh, means to be poor. So Achashverosh represents also an aspect of God that can cover over God, nature. And nowadays the jails are filled with people who just went according to their natures. Right? They just thought, they just had a nature to get mad, so they, blew up their next door neighbor's house, or they did. Right? And all the sins in the Torah are things that are natural. People like to do it. right? All the sexual crimes and all the natural crimes and all the money crimes and stealing and lying. It's because they like these things. They are good at it. People want money, so they lie, they steal.
And people by nature are bad.
You can say people by nature are not godly, but they're not necessarily bad. Not necessarily bad. It depends how you define bad. If you define bad like the Tanya defines bad, yes. People by nature, and nature itself is bad. But how does he define bad? Bad he defines as anything that doesn't cover over, that doesn't reveal God. So anything, anything that does not, anything that does not cover over, that reveals God is called good. Anything that covers over God is called bad. So this towel is bad, right? This cellular phone is bad, right? Oh, but I can use it in order to serve God. If I use it for a good thing, then it's like taking a puzzle and putting the puzzle into place. You take a puzzle and put it into place, all of a sudden you don't see the pieces anymore. The pieces become elevated, right? You don't see little pieces. You see, oh, look, a big picture, beautiful, a sunset in Hawaii, right? You see a whole big thing. It's the same thing. The world seems to be all separated and confused, and people get confused. But if you put things together, and everything that happens, you say, listen, God wants this to happen. What does he want me to do about it now? What am I supposed to do? Then everything gets put into its place, and then you start to see a bigger picture, right? Start to be a bigger picture. Take the best example. Beds. Are beds good thing or beds bad things? To go to sleep, a person doesn't go to bed, he's knocked out the next day. But on the other hand, the bed can hold people and they won't wake up in the mornings. The bed is bad. Should we destroy beds or should we make beds? What should we do? Right? So sometimes in the Or Tamimim, beds are very, very good things. Wonderful. A person goes to sleep. He wakes up fresh and wonderful. Sometimes it's the worst thing, our worst enemy, the beds. People just don't want to wake up. Like somebody said, I'm sorry I couldn't come to class. I have a back problem. What's the back problem? I can't get my back off the bed. Let's go. So that is... What did you say? What would you ask the question? No, let's go. Okay. If so, that's the level of Achashverosh. Achashverosh is this level of God that is above the beginning, above the end. The end and the beginning belong to him. It's a level of godliness that from there can come poverty, spiritual poverty to the Jewish people. That the Jewish people can even go against God. Okay. Now Haman wanted to get above even this level. Haman wanted to get above even this level of Achashverosh. Okay, Yesh Lomar, we can say that the reason for this, Shaham and that Haman, he peel poor through lots, bichdei in order, lahagia to reach, lebechina to the level of Hagoral, this lot or luck, Shalamaila, which is above Hishtal Shalut, which is above Hishtal Shalut. There's also another word for it. It's called destiny. If you want to call it destiny, it's not destiny. It's sort of not a nicer word, not exact word, but the word destiny means something that you can't understand. Right? It's something you can't. This is that destiny. Whatever. Right, our goral is, whatever our destiny is going to be. Soldiers would go into battle and say, whatever my destiny is, that's what it's going to be. Right? If I was supposed to die, I could have died in the streets also in New York. Right? So that's destiny. Whatever destiny is, the destiny is another word for something that's above understanding. It's above logic. It doesn't make any sense. That Haman wanted to get to this level of goral, this level of luck, shalamayla mishtalshus, that's above the whole order of creation. As even though that then, in the days of Achashverosh was already this level. Be with us, Shneur. Be with us, right? Even though in the days of Achashverosh, Gam even, Kodem before, Shehi Pil Pur, even before he threw the lots. Hayata, there was, who was ruling? Achashverosh. What do we say that Achashverosh was? Achashverosh is this level of not caring, no difference. If the Jews between the Jews and the non-Jews, between mitzvahs and sins, already things were going like Achashverosh. But Haman wanted to be higher. The world was already like Achashverosh. Hayata, there was Hahanhaga, the conduct. The world was going mitzad from Lamaila, above Mihishtalshlus. The world was going above the whole order of nature. How do we see the world was going above nature? How do we see? From. How do we see the world was above nature in the days of Achashverosh? Because Achashverosh was the king. How could an evil person like Achashverosh be the king? And who made him the king? God. How could it be such a thing like that? That Achashverosh was a nothing. What was he? He was the king of the world, Achashverosh. How could it be? It's a sign that something was going wrong, that it didn't make sense. It wasn't according to the Torah. How could it be? It's a sign that things were going above nature. Right? It was above normal. There was no above normal, below normal, but it wasn't normal, that's for sure. Right? The way normal should be is that the Jewish people, they should all be doing what God wants, and that they're the ones that should be ruling the world and making everybody happy, and everybody should have meaning in their life and blessing in their life. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the days of Mashiach. That's the job of Abraham. But when things are not normal, so God doesn't pay any attention. If people do bad or they do good, or that there's Jews or non-Jews or kosher or not kosher, then the whole world is confusion. That's what it was in the days of Achashverosh. The days of Achashverosh, everything was going above Hishtalshlus. Why did Haman want to get higher than that? Who it is? Lefi, because Shebechinat Goral, this level of the lots. Be with us, Shner, please. Right. See where we are? Third line down. Goral, who is Lamaila, above, Yoter, more, Gam, even, Mibechinat, from the level of Achashverosh. The level of lots is higher even than Achashverosh, the level of, represented by Achashverosh. And what do we say is the level of Achashverosh? Me, the one. Sha'acharit, at the end, the Reshit, and the beginning, Shalo are his. Now we're going to explain this. How can the lots be above? We said Achashverosh represents a level of God which is above bad or good, above beginnings or ends. And Haman wanted to be even higher than that. That's why he threw lots. Let's explain this. Okay, you with us, Shner? Sure? Ha'inyan, who, the topic is like this. Timizeh atzmo, that from this itself, I'm going to try to call Aaron Gudielski, here we go. That from this itself, Shenikra, that it is called, that there is a level, and that he was called Achashverosh. Namely, what is Achashverosh? What do we say Achashverosh means? The one that the beginning and the end belong to him, right? And that it's possible to be quiet, right, and poor, but the beginning and the end are his. Muchach, this proves, this indicates, write it down. You don't know this word. Muchach, this indicates Shagam, that also Legabe, that regarding it. Legabe, that regarding it. Yeshnam, there are Ha'inyanim, how do you say, the levels, in this case it means levels, of Acharis, how do you say, the end, voracious, and beginning. By this level of Achashverosh of God that we say is above all nature, well, you say this is a level that it's still, there is such a thing as beginning and end, Ella, but She'em Shavim Lagabe, they're equal. Let me give you an example. I'll give you an example. Here we have Bill Gates. Bill Gates, he has $100 billion. Let's just say there's nobody in the world that's even close to him, even though there might be people that are. Can you see if it's... Yeah? Bill Gates, he has $100 billion. He has $100 trillion, okay? He's got more money than anybody has in the world. By him, the poorest person in the world and the richest person in the world is exactly the same thing. Right? By him, the richest person in the world comes to him and says, Bill, I want to get and talk to Bill. He says, what do you mean? You can't talk to him. He's busy now. He's eating his lunch. He says, what are you talking about? I have people waiting to come and see me. I have $100 billion in the bank. He says $100 billion means nothing to him. He has $100 trillion. Means what's $100 billion? Nothing. Take it easy, right? See you around. So some other guy comes and he says, Mr. Gates, I'm selling rings that glow in the dark, plastic rings. Can I come and see us? Okay, why not? He doesn't care. What? It makes no difference to him. The richest guy, the poorest guy, by him everybody's equal. But by Bill Gates, there is a difference between rich and poor. He knows that there is such a thing as rich, and there is such a thing as poor. There is such a thing. But by him, it just doesn't make any difference. Right? But let's say there's somebody that's higher than Bill Gates. Let's say there's a person who's the king of the whole world. Ruler of the world, like in that time Achashverosh was, but he wasn't a real king, so it doesn't apply. Let's say there's a person who's a real, genuine king, and he is really the king of the whole world. Just say, for example, forget about here Achashverosh. What's a king? A king is a person that to him it makes no difference whatsoever. He doesn't recognize a person is rich, a person is poor. Money means nothing to him whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. He has all the money, he has everything he wants to. He can 1 second just say, okay, take this guy's bank account, change the name, put his name over there, put his name. By him, rich and poor doesn't make anything about him, right? Not important to him. So there's a person who's rich. By him, all the other people are like poor. He's so rich, everybody's poor. But he knows there's a difference between rich and poor. But by a king, there's no difference between rich and poor. He's never going to lose anything. He has everything belongs to him. He says it's the same thing here. God has a lot of different levels. One level of God is that God is above the world. He's above rich. He's above poor. He's above sins. He's above commandments. He's above everything. But it makes a difference to him. But he's just above it, right? It's just like small stuff to him. That's the level that's represented here by Achashverosh. But there's a higher level of God that what? That there's no such thing as bad and no such thing as good. It doesn't exist by him. It's not that it exists and he doesn't care. So he says the level of Achashverosh is the level of God where God doesn't care about bad or good, but there is such a thing as bad and good. He just doesn't care. But the level that Haman wanted to get to that was lots, that was the level where there's no such thing as bad or good. There's no such thing as Jews and non-Jews. It just doesn't exist. That's the level of the Goral, of the lots. That's where he wanted to get to, and that's the level he got to. He figured up at that level, everything's going to be equal. I have an equal chance of destroying the Jews. Right? Maybe even more of a chance of destroying the Jews. Maybe even because I'm ruling. I'm in the top. Right? If everything's going to go just however it is, then whatever I want to do, I can do. There's no power that's going to save the Jews, because up there's no difference. You understand? That's what Haman wanted to do. Haman was very, very clever. So it says, let's go. The Inyan is like this. I'm going back a little bit. The Inyan is the mizeh, that from this atzmo itself. Be with us. Shenikra, that he's called. B'shem, by the name Achashverosh. Me, last word on the line is me. Me, the one. Sha'acharit, at the end. Vareshit, in the beginning. Shalo are his. Because there's this level, and it's called Achashverosh, that the beginning and the end belong to him. Doesn't make any difference to God, beginning or end, mitzvahs or sins, Jews or non-Jews, doesn't make any difference. But Muchach, this indicates Shegam, that also Legabe, by him, Yeshnam, there is Ha'inyanim, or there are Ha'inyanim, these categories of what? Levels, categories, same thing. Categories, levels of acharis, of end, for reshis and beginning. Who is by God, there is such a thing as this level of Achashverosh, there is such a thing as beginning and end. Be with us, Colby. Ella, but shehem, that they are shavim legabe, they are equal to him. God, he knows there's such a thing as sins, there is such a thing as Jews, but he doesn't care. And we can even, how do you say, we can explain this. We can strengthen this. To explain this, from what it says, that by Achashverosh, it says, Asa Mishteh, he made a meal. L'kol Sarav, for all of his servants. V'avodav, for all of his ministers and servants. V'achar and afterwards, l'kol ha'am, to all the people, hanimtzaim, that are found, b'Shushan, Syria, You have the place Shner? No, you don't, because it's on the other side of the page. You didn't turn the page. Beshushan. Achashverosh made a meal, and the meal was for different people. Mavur, and it's explained, B'Likuti Torah, in the book of Likuti Torah, which is a book written by the first Rebbe of Chabad, Likuti Torah, Sha'agilu, that the revelation, be with us, Shner, be with us, Sha'agilu, that the revelation, see fourth word in? Sha'agilu, write it down, you don't know these words. Sha'agilu, that the revelation, Shahaya, that was, L'kal ha'am, to all the people, Haya was, Lamata, below, B'midrega, in level, Mehagilui, from the revelation, Sha'aya, that was, L'sarav, to his ministers, Ve'avodav, and servants. There were different revelations. The king, this is a level of God where the things don't make any difference. Levels, high and low, don't make any difference, but he recognized that there is such a thing. Ulahosif, and to add, Shagam, and also, Ulahosif, and to add, write this down, you don't know this word, come on, rest after the class. After you're 120 years old, you'll pass away 120 years old, and then you can rest. Then you rest all you want. Ulahosif, and you add on, Shagam, 240 years, you'll live 240 years in good health, and then rest. Then you can rest, but now don't rest. Shagam, that also, Bagilu, in the revelation, Shahaya, that was, L'kal ha'am, to all the people. Even the revelation that was to all the people, who they were the last, Hayu, there were. What's this abbreviation? Shner, be with us. No, so what's the abbreviation? Please. That's good. Good. That's okay. That's all right. That's all right. No, there's nothing wrong with that. What do you say? Who knows? Kama v'chama. Many, many. Kama v'chama. Kama. There was many, many chiluki, different dargos, levels. Haroi, haroi, those fitting. Fitting. Haroi means those who are fitting, or those who deserve. Write it down. Shneir, write the word down. Come on. Aroi, those who are fitting, lechatzer, to the courtyard. Kama lechatzer, went to the courtyard. Period. Haroi, those who were fitting, legina, for the garden. Kama legina, they got to the garden. Legina, to the garden. Haroi, those who were fitting. Lebeitan, to the house. Lebeitan, they got into the house. So in other words, Achashverosh was a level that he didn't care about all these different levels, but he recognized them. He recognized that there are these levels. That's also correspondingly a level of God, that God doesn't care about all these levels, about the Jews and the non-Jews and sins and mitzvahs. It doesn't care. But he knows there are. He recognizes there are these levels. But Haman wanted to be above that. V'yesh lomer, we can say, shemitzad, that from, bechina, the level of, hishtalshalut. Now we're going into the upper worlds. That from the levels of hishtalshalut, the chain of creation, and there's the spiritual worlds and the physical worlds, Hagilui, the revelation, who is Gam, also Lasarim, to the ministers, the Avadim, and the servants. V'zeh shehaya Hagilui, and that there was a revelation. Gam, also L'kal ha'am, to all the people, and there was that the king Achashverosh made a party and invited all the people. Va'ad, until La'ela, to those people, Shara'uyim, that were fit, Rak, only L'chatzer, to the front, to the yard, maybe the backyard. Who, Lefi, it is because Shagilu, that the revelation, Haya, was Mibechinas Achashverosh. Because this level, this revelation was to the level of, from the level of the king, and from the level of godliness, correspondingly, that was called Achashverosh. She'acharis, that the end, Vareshis, in the beginning, Shalo are his. Even though that it came from this level of Achashverosh, which we said is like Soviv Kol Almin, and that everything is equal, but Mikol Makom, nevertheless, Hagilui, the revelation, La'am, to the people, which should be equal, right? No, it was Lamata, it was below. Me'agilui, then the revelation, L'sarava Vodav, to the princes, to the ministers and the servants. V'gam, and also, Be'agilui, in the revelation, Liha'am, to the people. That was the lowest. Hayu, there were, Kama, many, Dargos. What's Dargos mean? Shner. Levels. Very good. Excellent. Fantastic. And pleasing. Ki, because so what are we saying here? Listen, what are we saying? Haman knew that there's a lot of different levels of God. The whole entire Megillah of Esther is talking about God and the Jewish people and the world. That's the whole story. You might look at it and see it's a nice story, an interesting story. There was a guy and he got a king. He killed his wife. He married a Jewish woman. There was an evil man, wanted to trick him. And he almost killed all the Jews. He had a plan. All of a sudden, everything turned around. And the Jews won. It's a nice story. Interesting story. Like you can make a movie out of it. There was a little bit of tension there. And then there's a bad guy, and there's the good guys, and there's a little bit of love over there with the king and his wife, and there's a little, passion, and this good. Oh, this nice story. Says the Rebbe, very good. But it really is talking only about God and the Jewish people in the world. And really the fact is that everything in the world is talking about God and the Jewish people in the world. Everything. Everything in the world is a hint from God how to be a better person to the Jewish people, and the Jewish people are supposed to teach all mankind. That's supposed to be our job. We're supposed to be examples to all of mankind that God is creating us, God likes us, and we have responsibility and we have obligations, and that God will help us fulfill all our obligations. That everything in the world is that way. But once in a while we have to have a story, an interesting event that actually occurred in order to inspire us. That's what stories are for. That's why the whole book of Genesis is talking all these stories. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. What do we call about all these stories? Rashi even says the Torah didn't have to begin with all these stories. It could have began with the first commandment to the Jewish people of sanctifying the month. Why did it start off with all these stories? To give the Jewish people power. To show us that the world, the entire world, can be a good place. And that is the whole story of Purim also. So now the Rebbe is breaking it down. In Purim, there's all these different characters in Purim. There's the king, there's Esther, there's Mordechai, there's Haman, right? There's throwing the lots. So the Rebbe, here it doesn't take the thing of Mordechai and Esther so much. Here he's taking what is Haman, what is Achashverosh, and what are the lots. That's the main thing. The lots are the main thing. It's the whole holiday. It's called the holiday of lots. That's the whole holiday. So it says, Achashverosh represents a level of godliness which is totally above creation. God creates the world, right? So it's totally above creation. And bad and good make no difference, right? They make no difference. But he recognizes it's a level of godliness where there is such a thing as bad and good. It just makes no difference to him. There's bad. And Haman wanted to get above that. So it says, Ki, because this. First word in line is zeh. This, the fact. She acharis, at the end. Vareshis, in the beginning. Shalo are his, who is Shilagabi, that in regarding. Acharis, the end. Vareshis, in the beginning. And there's the lowest and the highest. Hain, they are b'shava. They're equal. Regarding God, right? End and beginning are the same. He creates it all. But in regarding to the revelation of God, Shalo of his, Ba'olamos in the worlds, Be'olamos Elyonim, in the upper worlds, Reishis, that's the beginning, who God is, Begilui revealed, Yoter more. You with me, Mendy? You sure? You positive? Come on, no, be with us. Mi ba'olamos tachtonim. Last word is the word tachtonim. It's 8 lines from the top of the page. Last word is tachtonim. Acharis and all the most Acharis. First word in line is Acharis. That's the level of Achashverosh. That there's different revelations. There's different. It doesn't make any difference to him, but still, he recognizes there's different levels, and so he gives different revelations to different people, to different things. Haman didn't want that. Haman wanted Masha Enkein bebechinas Gorel. Haman wanted the level of Gorel. And the level of Gorel, and there is not, write down, there is not milechatchila, from the beginning. Inyan, the whole topic of Reishis v'Achris, beginning and end. By the level of Gorel, there is no beginning or end. There's no such thing. Kamuvan, how can we understand this? Kamuvan, like it's understood midzeh from this, Shahagoral, that lots who are bichalal in general, bishnei devorim, and two things, shavim, that are equal. Keniskale, like we said in Siv Base. In other words, this is a level of godliness where everything is equal. It's not that there's differences and God doesn't care. There is no differences. There are no differences. Everything is totally equal by him. Kamo, like Shahu, it is benogea le'inyanim, the Reishis v'Achris, of beginning and end. Maila omata, above and below. Al derech zeh, so it is benogea le'kedusha and sitra achra. So it is in regard to the difference between holiness and evil. Shemitzad adarga, from the level of Achashverosh. Be with us, Shneur. Be with us. Where's the word? What word are we on? What word are we? So mitzad hadarga, the level of Achashverosh. First word in line is de Achashverosh. Yesh, there is. There are. Chiluki, there is. Chiluk, a difference. Bain, between Kedusha and Sitra Achra. By this level of God, which is called Achashverosh, there's a difference between holiness and evil. Ela, but Shemitzad, because of Haroma Mushalo, because this level is so high of godliness. Okay, you with me, Kobe? And this does not Tofas Makom take up any place. Last word in line is Makom. Kol Kach, so much. And therefore, Evshar, it's possible, Liot, that there can be Yanika, a nurture, life. Gam, also, what's this abbreviation here? Lamed Samach Al. Yeah, what is it? What is it? What is it? What's the Lamed? What? Lit, to the Sitra Achra. What's Sitra Achra mean? Not evil spirits. What is literally, what do the words mean? Do you know? The other side. Sitra means side, Achra the other side. In other words, anything that seems to be not godly. Sitra Achra. Nature, evil. Right? All those things are called Sitra Achra.
You want to say the other side of the wall?
Huh?
Inside the other side of the wall.
We'll talk about that afterwards. Let's go. That's the level of Chash. That's the level of Chash of Sitra Achra. Chash and Rosh. Chash means poor. That's called Klippas. Please be with us. Chash, which is what? What's this abbreviation? You with me? Kobe, what's this abbreviation? Chash, which means silence of what? Kufnun. What's Kufnun? Klipat Noga. Very good. Verosh means poverty. De of Gimel Klippas HaTameos. Do you know what that is, Gimel Klippas HaTameos? Shner. Do you know what the word Gimel Klippas HaTameos mean?
Yeah, 3 unclean.
Clean Klippas. Look in the 6th chapter of the Tanya. It explains it very well. Okay, with me, Mendy?
Yeah.
Batteries are running out?
No.
Okay, good. The odd until Achashverosh is the level where there could be Chash, Klippas Noga, and even rulership to Rosh, which is poverty, the 3 Klippas of Tatameas, the unclean levels of the world, Fa'ad until Shatiyah, there could be Hit Gabrut, an overpowering, a victory, Hasitra Achra of evil, Al Kadush on good. Like we said, Hushcharu, that there was darkened Paneim, the faces shall Yisrael of the Jews. From this level of Achashverosh, there could be, we see an interesting, like I said to you yesterday, Achashverosh ruled over the whole entire world. Achashverosh killed his own wife. He did all sorts of crazy things. Who was creating Achashverosh all this time? Who made Achashverosh the king of the world, even the king of the Jews? Who made him the king of the Jews? Who was the one that made that Haman could be, who's creating Haman? Who? God. Right? From what level of God is Haman being created? From what level of, is it a very low level of God? He says, no, it's a level of God that there's no difference between high and low. That's this level of Achashverosh. There's no Acharis, Vareshis, that from this level there can be that Judaism is silent and Judaism even becomes defeated. Right? The Jews start to do sins. All the Jews went to the meal of Achashverosh. It says, Hushchuru, that was darkened the faces of the Jews. Yesh Lomar, and we can say, right, be with me here. Yesh Lomar, we can say, okay, Mandy, this is the thing you're going to get a lot. Interesting. This is very interesting. What do you want to say? How does evil exist? How does God create evil? One way you can say very simple. What's the problem? God is very good, but He created a devil or created whatever, and God is sitting way up there, and God wants us to do good. And it's something like the Lahavdil, the Greek, what is it called? The mythology. God is sitting way up there, and people are down here, and people have all sorts of different difficulties, and an interesting thing. The world is but a stage, and we are players. Good. So there can be good, and there can be bad, because God is sitting up there, and He's a third party. God is a third party, but that's not so. God, there's only one party. That's the Jewish people say. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Echad. God is one. God is creating everything all the time. It means that God is creating Haman, and He's creating Hitler and Stalin, Yamach Shamam. How does God create all these things? Where did all this come from? Holocaust. God is creating the Holocaust. Come on, that's people make that. That's not. No, God is creating everything. How can this be such a thing like this? So he says, the Rebbe says it comes from a level of godliness that's very, very high, where there's no difference between bad and good. This level here is called, in the Megillah, it's referred to as Achashverosh. For Yesh Lomer, we can say, from this level there can even be evil. Yesh Lomer, we can say, Al Derech, this level of Achashverosh is like Shemamis. A Shemamis is like a lizard or a spider or something. A lizard. Biyadayim tetafis. Write it down. There, write it down. Shemamis, a lizard. Biyadayim, with its hands. Tetafis, can take, can grab. Vehi, and it is. Behechali melech, and it is in the palace of the king. It's one of the proverbs of King Solomon. A lizard can grab with his hands, and it is in the palace of the king. Now, what does this mean? In the palace of the king, nobody gets in the palace of the king. You can't go in the palace of the king and do what you want to. He says, but a lizard can. Why can a lizard? Because it's so small and it's so insignificant that the king lets it go. So he sees a little lizard up there eating a piece of cake. What does he care? Right? He's in the corner of some, on the fifth story, he's got a big palace room. And the palace is so high, right? His room, his royal throne room, is so high. He doesn't care. There's a little lizard over there. So it's the same thing also. There's a level of godliness that God is so high, He doesn't care. Doesn't care about it. So there can be evil people, there can be good people. Hashem gets creates them because He doesn't care from this level, right? That's what it says. A lizard is in the palace of the king, and he can take whatever he wants to. Why? Because he's in the palace of the king. The king doesn't care. Right? A little lizard. What's a little lizard going to do? Same thing. God is so infinite, so great. So there's that evil person who kills a few people. What's the big deal? Right? By this level, there's no difference between. Right? Kill a few million people. Av shehi mechalkeles es haheichel. Sorry. Av shehi melachlechas. Even though that it dirties up the palace. Just 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, rabbis. Ki, because. Mitzad, from. Be with me, Shner. Be with me. He came 20 minutes late. I should make the class 20 minutes longer.
Oh.
Maybe that's what I'll do.
No, I already can't do it because I'll be late for midterm practice and everything.
Okay. 20 minutes late. 20 minutes. Ki, because. Come on, Shner. Be sensible. Come on time and we'll finish on time. Everybody will be happy. 2 more minutes. Ki, because of. Ki, because, mitzad, from, write this down, Roma Muso, the highness, Shel Melech of the king, Eino Noten Lev, he does not give his heart, he doesn't put attention, Lahakpid, to care, Legarsha, what's the Garsha mean? What's the Garsha mean? Mendy? Legarsha, to expel it, to kick it out, right? The king is so high, he doesn't care if there's a little lizard. The same thing, this is a level of godliness that's so high, he doesn't care if there's a little Haman and Achashverosh, he's killing the Jews. This is a level that's too high of God, so high, Achashverosh. Avobad lo lahashmidam, but not to destroy them. He made the Jews' face black, he darkened their face, but not to destroy them. Kishabikation, when they wanted Haman wanted lahashmi, to destroy it, called Yudim, all the Jews, chayas v'shalom, God forbid. This abbreviation, you know this abbreviation? Nobody does. Don't eat your tzitzis. Shnir. Haya lo tihiyah. You have it? Haya lo tihiyah. It was, and write it down. Kobe, you don't know this word. First one in line is Yehudim. Third line from the bottom of the paragraph. Third line. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. Haya lo tihiyah. Haya, it was, lo tihiyah, and it should not be. It was such a thing in the past, but let it be in the past. Shouldn't be in the future. What did Haman do? Haman wanted to destroy the Jews. He couldn't do it from the level of Achashverosh. From the level of Achashverosh, he could rule. He had the power to rule. Which word do you want? Chas v'shalom, hoya lo tihiyah. From the level of Achashverosh, he could rule over the Jews. He could rule, but he couldn't destroy them. If he wanted to destroy them, he had to get to a higher level. Therefore, he peel poor, be with us. He peel poor, he threw lots, who are goral, this is the lots. Why? Cave and since. Shebebechin is goral, then in this level of goral. And there is not. Milichat chila, from the beginning. Chiluk, any difference. Bain, between. Kedusha and Sitra Achra, because there's no difference between holiness and the Sitra Achra, ubefrat, and especially. Lefi, because, not that there's no difference. There is no, not that God doesn't care, but there are differences. There is no difference between holiness and bad. That's the level of goral, of the lots. Ubefrat, and especially lefi mavur, according to what we explained, le'el, previously. Write this down, le'el means previously. Sif Gimel in paragraph 3 and 4. Shah goral, that the goral, who is lo rak lamayla, it's not only above Hishtalshalus, but it's even above Elamayla Miratzon, even the higher than Ratzon, this level of Keter of the Torah and mitzvahs. Did you know this abbreviation, Shneur? Torah and mitzvahs?
Yeah.
Lochein, therefore, Ham and Chashav thought, Sha'al Yedezeh, that by means of this, by throwing lots, that he would be higher than the level of Achashverosh, be with us, Mendy. Higher than the level of Achashverosh. Yochel, he would be able, Chas v'shalom, God forbid, lahafik, to, hafik, what's hafik mean?
To turn over.
No, lahafik means what? To achieve. To achieve, you know what achieve means?
Yeah.
To achieve, write it down. Kobe, right. Lahafik, to achieve, afik means to bring out. To achieve, to bring out, at zmamo, his plan. Zmamo means his plan. Write it down. Write it down. You won't remember this word. Et zmamo. Write it down, shter. Lahafik, to achieve, et zmamo, his plan. It was Haman wanted to destroy the Jews. He already had rulership. He could rule. That's from the level of Achashverosh. But if he wanted to destroy the Jews, he figured the only way to do it is from the level of lots, which is even higher. Because the level of lots, there are no differences. It's not that there are differences, but he just doesn't care. Like the lizard is in the palace of the king. The king doesn't care about the lizard. The same thing that Hashem is the king. So at this level, he doesn't care about a little Haman. He doesn't care. This is a level where not only doesn't care, there is no difference. From this level, a lizard and a diamond are the same. Right? Absolutely no difference. And so by this level, Haman thought from this level of God that he maybe would be able to actually do something that no one ever did in the history of the world, to destroy the Jews. He would be above all differences. There wouldn't be any differences. So then he would have a 50-50 chance to destroy the Jews. Maybe even a bigger chance because he was ruling. As we'll talk more, as we know that it came out okay. Here we're here today, and Haman didn't make it.